Well, a warm welcome to today's talk. It's Friday the 27th of August. Now I want to start off with the report from the United States that's coming up on the origins of this virus, the intelligence report we've been waiting for 90 days. And let me just say it's a bit disappointing. But then we'll be looking at some relevant data from the States, and we'll also be looking at some personal experience. And we'll see how we got on after that. So let's just start off with this origins of the virus. Let's say no more than that. The two camps are, it was a laboratory escape somehow. No one really is seriously saying it was a bioengineered virus, but more a virus that was being worked on in a laboratory that could have escaped. The alternative is the zoonotic hypothesis, where it would have gone from an animal to potentially straight to a human, or from an animal such as a bat to another animal to a human. The problem is we haven't discovered the animal yet. But let's come on to that now. Let's look at where we are with this fascinating story. Actually, the reason this is so important is really I couldn't really care less about the attribution of blame. But we need to learn for future pandemics, because there will be future pandemics and millions and tens of millions. And I don't want to be melodramatic about this, but a future pandemic could kill billions of people. So this is just so important that we understand as much as we possibly can. So 24th of August, 3 days ago, was actually the 90th day, and President Biden, you might remember, said, I want the report in 90 days, and we believe it landed on his desk on the 25th, 2 days ago. But unfortunately, there seems to be a bit of a leak. Again, how deliberate or accidental these things are, I'll leave to your view. But anyway, the bottom line of the report, which of course is still private and has not been released yet, so we don't know this definitively, but we kind of do really, but it's not released. This is an unreleased report. It's inconclusive. So it looks remarkably disappointing, this report. So remember, President Biden tasked the intelligence agencies that could bring us closer to a definitive conclusion about the origin of the virus. That was the brief. And they've gone away and done that for 90 days. Now, this is encouraging. He also said this: you're going to have to increase your ranks with people with significant scientific capacity relative to pathogens. Now, that's actually remarkably reassuring that he said that, because the intelligence services clearly need more scientists if we're going to avert a future pandemic. If we could synergise what the intelligence services are good at, whatever that is, but we know they are good at collecting intelligence. If we could synthesise that with scientific and medical understanding, that would be a great leap forward, and could, as we've said, potentially save many, many lives in the future. So I'm pleased to see that's happening. We assume that the intelligence services have been recruiting scientists quite frantically lately. But the bottom line seems to be on this report: intelligence officers fell short of a consensus, which is a nice way of saying we don't know, mate. Right, so may the agencies coalesced around two likely scenarios, as we've said: the natural zoonotic transmission or the lab leak. So they're the two main hypotheses. The engineered virus one is not really running at the moment. So they're the two consensus. They're the two camps. Now we believe that two of the intelligence agencies, these are direct quotes from the Washington Post, two of the intelligence agencies lean towards the hypothesis that the virus emerged from human contact with an infected animal. So two intelligence agencies thought that. A third intelligence agency, and we don't know which is which yet, whether this is CIA, FBI or something I've never heard of, but whatever it is. But a third one leaned towards the lab accident scenario. So the intelligence community in the States is divided on this, which is pretty interesting. It is divided on it. Dozens of analysts and intelligence officials, dozens, we don't know how many, is it 100, is it 200, we don't know. Multiple agencies, and that is the conclusion. So we'll give you, the intelligence services are giving us a definite maybe on that. Now, this is not really the intelligence services' fault, because they had so little data to go on. I'm sure they made a superb job. In fact, we've got good evidence that they did make quite a superb job of analysing the data that they had, but there's simply not enough data. Calculate the distance to the moon given no information at all. Well, obviously you can't do it. You need to be given information to work on. Following on from this, Dr. Reelman, Stanford University microbiologist, we should not even be thinking about closing the book or backing off, but rather ratcheting up the effort. So this is going to go on. We do need to get answers on this. Unfortunately, the Wuhan lab has not released its lab records. Now, this is remarkably unfortunate that the Wuhan Institute of Virology has not released its full records. Now, why on earth wouldn't it release its full records? I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions on that, but it hasn't. And we can also assume that the Chinese scientists have been working fairly hard over the past, 18 months now to look for the animal reservoir. In fact, we know they've been looking for the animal reservoir and the animal vector of this disease, and so far nothing has come up. So, okay, things might come up in the future. We don't know. But if the lab were to release its records, it would certainly reduce some of my paranoia instantly, but so far it hasn't. And we don't know really why it hasn't. Now, remember this report from the World Health Organization, basically now discredited. Lab leak extremely unlikely was their quote. But then, of course, the leader of that expedition actually, I don't want that yet. I can't even remember the term. He's something like, wasn't rescinded or redacted, but basically he excused himself from the committee, or was excused from the committee or something. So it was all completely unsatisfactory, and even Dr. Tedros said at the time we need more than this. But 90 days work, we can assume hard work from the American intelligence services, and they simply don't have enough data, which is a real pity. But as I say, we do need this. Millions or billions of lives could depend on this for future pandemics and other diseases that are happening all the time, viral diseases. It really is something that we want to know about. Now, do you think we'll ever know? Put your hand up if you think we're going to find out a definitive conclusion on this. Well, yeah, not too many hands up. Most of you are like me. I think you're a bit pessimistic. Now, moving on to the United States, what we do know, we have got accurate data for. These are the these are the trends in the number of COVID-19 cases in the United States. So this is daily cases. And unfortunately, we do see quite a significant increase in cases still. Not as high as last winter's peak, but the cases are still going up. And if we look at the deaths in the United States, daily deaths, sadly, we do see quite a marked increase actually recently above the average. Well over 1,000 deaths there. New deaths, 1,183 on that day. 7-day rolling average. The 7-day rolling average is actually over 1,200. So we are seeing quite significant increases in the past few days, which is unfortunate. But of course, it's not surprising because the cases have increased and there's a lot of unvaccinated. Still about 90 million unvaccinated people in the States. Moving on to more data from the States. This one is trends in the number of COVID-19 vaccinations in the US. And we do see that's going up, which is good. And if we look at some of and all of these data, you can look at individual states. It's pretty good. So let's just look at one, Florida, where there was vaccine hesitancy to some extent. And we see the vaccine rate there is picking up, which is good. People are realising just how important it is now to get vaccinated, and the rates are picking up. So that is encouraging, but of course we have this delay. And that delay is manifest, and the lack of vaccine is manifest in this slide here. The increase in hospitalizations, which is quite significant. Now, this is the United States as a whole, and this was the peak last winter, and really the numbers are going up quite dramatically now towards that peak. Could we hit those kind of numbers again? Yes, potentially we could. Let's hope not, but we certainly could. So that's all live data from the States. Just a couple of the point is about hospitalizations in the States. It's not equally distributed. As we looked, there's a lot of the southern states, particularly which were under-vaccinated, that have got much higher levels. This is not equally spread. And hospital pressure is quite significant in some of those areas. Just before we get to the hospitalisation situation, though, there are all those links. Always click them for yourself. South Dakota, the Sturgis motorcycle rally. Now, we this is exactly what we predicted. Now, 2 weeks ago, it finished 500,000 visitors. And of course, we said this is guaranteed spread. And the people will take it from Sturgis all around the country. Now, we're not sure about what's happening all around the country yet, because hopefully most parts of the country where these motorcyclists are going to have high vaccination uptakes. Nothing against motorcyclists. I'm a motorcyclist myself. It's just the amount of people in one place that was the problem. So basically 5 times more infections than there were 2 weeks ago. Massive increase. This is for South Dakota as a whole. Positivity rate in South Dakota is 16.7%, pretty high. Meade County, where Sturgis is, positivity rate, the number of tests coming back positive, 36.1%. Really quite huge in South Dakota, particularly around the Sturgis area. Quite inevitable. This is exactly what you and me predicted here 3 weeks ago. It's exactly what's happening. We knew it was going to happen because it happened last year. Motorcyclists, going back to people that aren't potentially vaccinated, you don't need me to tell you about the risk there. Florida, for example, we've looked at hospitalisation pressures in Mississippi and Missouri, but Florida, for example, hospitalisations tripled in the past month. 90% of the hospitalisations are unvaccinated. Now, yesterday we noticed that it was Los Angeles County we were looking at yesterday. People that were vaccinated were 19 times less likely to be hospitalised. So people in Los Angeles County who were not vaccinated were 19 times more likely to be hospitalised. Not 19%, 19 times more. Here we see that, so that gives us about 95%, whereas here it's about 90%. But it's in the same area. The majority are not vaccinated. Now, I think I'll leave that there now, because I've got a very interesting report from Julia, who is a senior healthcare professional herself. And I won't say too much. We'll let Julia tell her own story. And I just find it really so, well, it's really noble of people to share this material with us. And you'll see what I mean as you watch the video. So, Julia, thank you very much. And over to you, Doctor.
Hi, Dr. Campbell. My name is Dr. Julia Champalia. I'm a pharmacist who's been practicing in the Chicagoland area since 2004. And before I get into some of the points that I wanted to make, I really wanted to say thank you for your daily summaries. Not only are they fact-based, they're referenced, they're concise, and the layman or the healthcare professional can easily understand and make decisions that are best for them and their families. I know, because that's what I use them for. And I thank you so much. You're quite a beacon in this darkness. So thank you. But I think I had found your channel in fall of 2020, and we were just about to lock down. My family and I have 2 daughters who are teenagers. One missed her complete year of 10th grade. The other, who was graduating from high school, senior, she got fully vaccinated and was able to go back the last few weeks prior to graduation. But I was diagnosed with lupus in 2018. And it's really been a struggle. I don't think I've ever fully appreciated. You try to appreciate and understand every patient's experience. I don't think I could understand a chronic condition like that. And I guess that's, kind of the curse of a chronic condition is that you really, there's no cure. You have to keep treating it. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to try new regimens. Regimens that were working fail. So it's been difficult. But one of the things that I noticed very early on, they had a 60 minutes regarding long COVID. And I was, even from the very beginning of this pandemic, all of the symptoms that were being discussed sounded so much like some of the issues that, symptoms that I suffer from lupus. They talk about COVID toes. I have like lupus toes. And you can't always get that circulation. They, all the achiness, the brain fog, and I will probably say, and forget what I'm about to say during this thing. It's legitimate, and it's very scary and troubling, and just kind of lose that spot in your sentence and wonder what word is kind of coming next and grasping for it. It's troubling. And then there's just the fatigue, along with the pain. So prior to 2018, at one point I was working 4 different jobs. I was working in a pharmacy, in a grocery store, or supermarket. I was a professor for a pharmacology class for nurses. And I was also doing some medication therapy management consulting for 2 different firms. So it's really constantly going. And then I've since changed into a different position. I don't see patients, but I deal more with quality issues for a large government agency. And I can't tell you how many sick days I've had since I've been diagnosed. And it really scares me. The first few times it happened, and I couldn't get out of bed. And there were some stressful things going on in my life, but I could always find the motivation, reach down and grab it and go. And it wasn't happening. So I have really begged people from the time that I really saw that long COVID episode not to get this, because while there's some people out there who will say, 99.9% survival rate, you don't know what this disease can do to you long term. And that's even without being hospitalized. I will say that I really couldn't go anywhere. So I've taken to doing a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of listening about contagion, about viruses. And it's something I was told in pharmacy school. Every professor kind of gets up there and touts their little thing. If it's a cardiologist, they're going to say the heart is the most important organ in the body, and it's an ophthalmologist, they're going to say the eye is the most important. All very important, of course, but everyone's kind of, they're kind of going to bat for their own specialty. Well, the infectious disease doctor got up to the podium one day and said, one day we hope to prove that all disease is rooted in contagion. And I was kind of like, okay, that's a stretch. Like, really, come on. And then sometime after that, it was discovered that H. pylori was responsible for ulcers. And later on, we learned that HPV can cause cancer. We see things like shingles after childhood chickenpox. Herpes simplex is something that doesn't go away. It stays rooted in the body. So from all this, and probably more that I'm forgetting right now, obviously polio, is debilitating and can cause paralysis throughout life. But I really didn't think much of it in the past, but I had been diagnosed in 2009 with H1N1, and I was 32. I was healthy. I just gave away my age. I had normal BMI, very active, 2 little girls, worked, was a Girl Scout leader, you name it. And so I really didn't think much of it. And that's why I kind of was, at the very beginning of this, I didn't worry as much as I probably should have, obviously, because in 2009, I worked all week, sick. But I was always sick, and our pharmacy had no temperature, or had no heating in December. So we, you worked sick, and you have to, gut it out. And so on my day off on a weekend, I went into the ER, and they isolated me, which is so weird at the time, and put a mask on me. And then came back. They had obviously taken a test. I can't even recall when that actually happened, but they're like, oh, you have H1N1. And I remember the doctor wrote Tamiflu for me, and then also wrote for Vicodin ES. And, opioids were given out very freely. But I was kind of thinking at the time, well, is this, for the cough? And my thought is that there was a lot of a pain associated with it when I think back about it now, because I was thinking, oh, like any good American, here's my Tamiflu. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to get to be okay for Christmas, and everything will be okay. And